Hello there, Kyle Katarn here, coming back for another video. Today we're going to be talking about Star Wars Outlaws, which I got to play for about 4 hours. Here's what I think so far. I played Star Wars Outlaws at a special press event put on by Ubisoft. Thanks again, Ubisoft, for sending me out there. That was an awesome experience. I played through 3 missions, did some exploring, and spent a lot of time just staring at background details, of which there are a ton, by the way. I'd describe the level of background action and NPC animations as somewhere between Grand Theft Auto and Jedi Survivor. There are so many things happening in the environment around you that really make the experience feel immersive. The demo that I played on felt very polished and complete. I know that a lot of times early players are given a very rough feeling version of the game, but this actually seemed ready to go. The only place where I felt like the game maybe wasn't totally optimized was during some cutscenes where the frame rate dropped down pretty bad. But it's possible that that was just the PC that I was demoing on. I don't actually know anything about the specs of the actual machine that I played on. It could also just be an artifact of the demo itself, so I don't know if that's really going to be an issue moving forward. But I did notice that the frame rates kind of dropped a little bit for certain cutscenes, not even all the cutscenes. Overall, the visual fidelity was very impressive. Like, it's a very polished looking demo. So the first thing that I did was try out K-Vess's S57 Cardinal speeder bike on the planet Toshara. The bike is actually really cool. It's stored in your ship, so if you go and explore other planets, the bike is like ready to go as soon as you land. Taking off across the plains, I was immediately impressed by the scope of the world. Although maybe I should have paid more attention to my driving. My bad. I took a walk through the city and saw some pretty cool things, including a ton of references and Easter eggs that I'm not going to talk about because I got very excited when I found them, and I want that for you too. But I will say there's a ton of things to do here, from sabacc to literal arcade game machines that you can stand and play. There's so many mini games in here. I only had a very limited amount of time to play through the demo, and so I focused more on missions and exploration, and I didn't actually try out a lot of these little mini games. But I'm very much looking forward to doing that in a subsequent playthrough when I actually get my hands on a full version of this game. The Imperial presence is definitely felt here, and it becomes quite clear that we are nestled in the heart of the original trilogy, with the story taking place between episodes 5 and 6. It's very apparent, and there's a lot of direct references and callbacks to the original, so you really feel like you're in that time period.
Alright, move along.
So let's talk about the gameplay a little bit. So as you do missions for various unscrupulous types in Miragana City, you'll be sent into different gang territories to steal things, talk to people, etc. This is where the reputation system comes in. If you have a decent standing with a gang, they'll let you waltz right in. If not, they will bounce you to the curb faster than you can say a McClunky.
What do you think you're doing?
All right, I'm out of here. Unbelievable.
Pathfinding is kind of a major factor here. Kay does a lot of stealth and sneaking, crawling through vents, finding ledges, things to climb on. There were a couple moments where I wasn't really sure how to proceed, and it took a lot of studying the environment to find that next step or ledge or hidden vent or what have you. There were several times that I had to sort of stop, slow down, examine my surroundings, and then I figured out what I was supposed to do. But the pathfinding itself was kind of a challenge. Sometimes the path really isn't very clear, but if anything, that kind of adds to the experience overall, because I did feel very clever when I finally figured out solutions to some of these problems. I know it's something that gamers love to criticize in games is making it overly obvious where you're supposed to go, painting things yellow, having random paint spills and things in places on the wall so that you know where to climb. And I gotta tell you, I'm the player that those are there for, all right? I need that stuff. I'm so bad at this. That's why it's there. It's for players like me, okay? So take that with a grain of salt. The pathfinding was difficult for me. It might not be difficult for the average gamer. Another key element of the gameplay is your slicing tools. You've got a data spike, a lock slicer. They function as mini games, and while I don't typically love this mechanic in adventure games, as I feel like it can kind of really sap the momentum in otherwise very tense moments, it's not too bad here. They're very intuitive and easy to navigate. The data spike is about pushing buttons to match the rhythm of the lights, and the code breaker is a symbol matching game. My first encounter with both of these mechanics took me a second to figure it out, but once I did, I just blew through it in all the subsequent checkpoints. It became very easy, very fast. Speaking of gameplay, we have got to talk about Nyx. K-Vess's dependable little partner in crime, easily one of the cutest creatures in Star Wars, is an invaluable resource in this game. Not only is he great for distractions during stealth and combat, but he can loot items for you, he can activate switches, interact with the environment in all these different ways.
Hey, Get that button, buddy.
Since you play as a protagonist with no force powers, they really level the playing field with a combination of tricks, gadgets, and good old-fashioned scoundrel's luck. If playing Cal Kestis in the Jedi Survivor games makes you feel like a Jedi, Outlaws will definitely make you feel like a scrappy underdog making your way in the universe. I will say this about the gameplay though, it is difficult. A lot of the early missions involve sneaking into areas undetected, and I am famously bad at stealth. It's canon. At one point, I tried to sneak into the Pike District to steal an ion casing for my blaster, and I just kept getting caught. So I said, to hell with this, I'm stealing from Crimson Dawn instead.
Hey, Waka, where would Crimson Dawn stash their blaster parts?
Oh, gave up on the Pikes?
Just want to know my options.
You have to make hard choices about which gangs you gain reputation with, usually putting you directly at odds with the rival gangs. This game will put you in positions where you have to make difficult choices like that. It's part of navigating the underworld, you know? So, because it's me and I suck at stealth, eventually, obviously, I just blasted my way in. And I'll say the gunplay is pretty intuitive. Switching between different blaster types for different types of enemies. For example, you can use Ion to take down droids and shields, Plasma mode for stormtroopers. You eventually will get opportunities to get gear upgrades, and they will bolster your skills in a specific set, like Thief or Gunslinger, which further impacts your gameplay options. You start off as kind of a jack of all trades. You're like passable in all of these fields, and you can choose to specialize in one element of the gameplay. So your end game can be like you're a gunslinger, and you have all of these perks and bonuses that help you with gunplay. Or you can be a thief and you have all of these stats. Your gear have stats that really help you with like stealthing, and like you have a bonus to not being detected and things like that. So you can diversify the gameplay within how the character is presented. Like you really can customize how Kay acts in the universe as a character. And that's kind of cool too. So let's talk about the wanted system in this game. It functions very similarly to Grand Theft Auto. If you commit a crime against the Empire or a criminal faction, they will place bounties on your head and arrest warrants. And you'll be hunted. People will come for you. And you can either lay low until the heat dies down, or you can fly off and find the transponder that is transmitting this arrest warrant and sabotage it, wiping your record clean. These are your two options. I didn't get as much time as I would have liked to really explore this feature, but with a bunch of missions to do, I didn't really have time to go around committing crimes. So I will look forward to that on Twitch when I get my full version of the game. So a lot of people have asked the question, just how open world is this game? Well, to answer that, I can tell you that I just walked away from all the quest lines and drove out into the horizon, and there were plenty of things to discover. The planet maps feel really big. They do. They feel absolutely huge, and the story develops completely at your own pace, with side quests galore. The missions themselves are somewhat linear, with usually like 2 to 3 options on how you can go about getting it completed, but it almost always boils down to stealth, shooting, or parkour. In terms of exploration, it really does feel like a sandbox experience. When you're on the missions, they are somewhat more linear. But I think that's to be expected. With the mission complete, it was time to head off into space. The seamless load from ground to space was pretty cool, and I can confirm that you do have a limited amount of control steering the ship during this loading sequence. The spaceflight controls were a lot more comfortable than I was expecting. You can steer the ship, manually roll, do evasive maneuvers, and there's an aim assist, which is very similar to Battlefront 2015 Starfighter modes. The space gameplay felt very cinematic and fun. Landing on a planet was also very cool. You approach the planet in high orbit, and you can just sort of hang out in that zone. It's similar to Starfield in that way. You approach the planet in a high orbit, and there's several things you can interact with. You don't get to pick a spot to land, like in Starfield. It's more that you have to land in a predetermined zone, but the landing sequence itself is very cinematic and cool. Like, clearly there is loading happening, but it's happening behind the scenes, and rather than like a splash screen that takes you out of the immersion and takes you out of the moment, you watch your Pathfinder ship physically land on the platform in real time, and it's a much classier way of like keeping the moment going and not breaking the immersion. It's very similar to like in a game when you get into an elevator and the elevator moves to another level in real time. Like that's definitely a low profile loading screen that's happening there. Similar logic playing out here. But the way they pulled it off is very nice, and it feels like the landing approach sequences are very cinematic and definitely heighten the immersion. Yeah, I think the way that they've done it is a very classy way to keep players in the moment. So the other planet that I visited was Kijimi. First seen in Rise of Skywalker, this is a very cool area to explore with tons of detail and kind of a similar layout to Toshara in terms of it's a major urban city with various gang districts and you have to sneak in and out of them. I snuck into Crimson Dawn's stronghold and, shall we say, procured some valuable merchandise before expertly sneaking my way out. Just kidding. Obviously, there was a loud and messy shootout. But with the mission accomplished, it was back to the ship and on to the next adventure. Yeah, I really enjoyed my time playing this game. My only regret is the time limit that I had really made me feel a little rushed, and as a background details guy, as an exploration guy, I really look forward to playing this again at like a snail's pace, where I can just really like absorb all of it, because walking around in the big cities, there were so many immersive things happening, and there's so many side conversations, and like the background NPCs. I stood in a back alley on Toshara in Miragana City and just watched these NPCs for like 5 minutes, and I couldn't for the life of me tell when their idle animations actually looped. I think they all have really long idle loops, which is really cool, you know? You play Skyrim for long enough, and you recognize every goddamn animation and every single voice line, but this felt a lot more various than that. And that's a hard thing to analyze when you've only played a game for a single time. I will be interested to revisit that notion when I've played this game like front to back several times. Just how unique the background animations and NPCs behavior seems to be. But I was very impressed with this. As I said, my only regret is that I didn't have more time to spend with this. In conclusion, I think overall this game is going to make a lot of people happy. If you are a gamer like me who likes to spend their time being immersed in a story, like absorbing details slowly, then this is your game. If you are, for some reason, in a rush to get through this thing, you can do that too. You can blitz through and do nothing but main story quests, and you could probably finish it in about 30 hours, is what I was told. And around 60 to 65 hours for 100% completion. All side quests, all hidden areas, etc. As a casual gamer myself, I will say that some aspects of this gameplay are very challenging. At least they were for me. Unless you are like Solid Snake level stealth skills, be prepared to do some of these missions over and over until you figured out the best stealth approach, because it's kind of unforgiving. I haven't talked about the story or the characters that much, and that's because it's kind of difficult to talk about them without giving away some major story spoilers that I really want to preserve for your first time playing this game. I will say, though, that Kay Vess is a really engaging protagonist, and I found myself invested in her story very quickly. It didn't take long at all. ND5, the droid, and Nyx, I think, are the two standout supporting characters. It's the dynamics, the chemistry, the relationships, like it's all there. It's going to be a lot of fun to play through, and I can't wait to see where the story goes too. In conclusion, I will say that I had a great time playing this game, and I really, really am looking forward to playing it again at a much slower pace where I can really absorb these details, practice the gameplay a little bit so I'm not quite as bad. That is really not a criticism that I can level against the game, though. That's more my own shortcoming as a gamer. Like I just don't have the stealth skill set. You can't really blame the game for that. But regardless, I really had a lot of fun playing this. Thank you again to Ubisoft for giving me the opportunity to take a look at this game early. Let me know in the comments what you think. Are you excited for this game? I know that Ubisoft doesn't have the best reputation when it comes to game launches, but what I've seen has given me some confidence here. And obviously, I can only speak for myself. This is just my personal opinion, but I really enjoyed this game. And I'll be picking it up, and I'll be playing through the entire thing. You can stay tuned for my long plays on Twitch. It's going to be a lot of fun. So thanks for watching, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this breakdown of my experience playing Star Wars Outlaws. I am really excited to play the rest of this game. Can't wait to stream it and play alongside everyone else in the Star Wars community. I think there's going to be a lot to talk about here. Thanks again, and as always, may the Force be with you.